I should be
Sure.
able, I should be able to see it here actually too. All right, here we go. Give it just a sec. And all right, hey, we are live. Welcome to the
Sure.
Open Economy Initiative's live stream for January 21st. Let me make sure I got the date right here. I'm Matt. Welcome back. I'm joined by my co-founder, Chilla Breimer, and also Matt Hill from Start9 Labs.
Hi.
We're really excited to be talking with him tonight. He's been kind enough to join us and take some questions and explain a little bit about the embassy. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But before we hop to the topic at hand, I just want to tell you a little bit about ourselves in case this is the first time you join one of our streams. So Chill and I, we run the Open Economy Initiative, or the OPE for short. We're based in Colorado, but it's a network of basically just cryptocurrency and privacy enthusiasts kind of spread out all around the country, a few in the different nationalities, but mostly in the US. And yeah, we've just been producing content and educational material to further the advancement of cryptocurrency and crypto commerce. We have a couple courses up on Udemy to help people purchase Bitcoin using cybersecurity best practices, and a short intro into DeFi on the Ethereum ecosystem. And if you're interested in any of that, we'll share some codes at the end of this for people that want to check that out. But yeah, I mean, we're really just on a mission to promote crypto commerce through education. And we're excited to be bringing you guys these streams and this content kind of as the space is starting to come alive again after a few years. And yeah, it's fun. So with that, I will turn it over to Matt. And yeah, if you want to just do a short intro, and then we'll just really get into it.
Yeah. First, thanks for having me on. So I'm Matt. I'm one of the co-founders of Start9. I'm our CEO, and this is a relatively young company. We were founded in late 2019, so just over a year ago. My three co-founders and I are all software engineers by trade. We had worked together at a prior company, and we all moved on together in order to do what we're doing now at Start9. You know, when we first set out together, we didn't really have an exact goal in terms of what product we would be building. What we had was, you know, relatively shared outlook on the world, and you know, the problems that we saw, and vague kind of solutions that we had, Bitcoin being very central to that. And, you know, we kind of sat around and we knew we wanted to do something together, and we tinkered with some things. Our first idea was actually to do a Bitcoin derivatives exchange, where we were going to do something in the vein of LedgerX, like doing options and futures for Bitcoin, which is cool in itself, but very regulated, very part of the existing kind of financial system. Just because it's utilizing Bitcoin doesn't mean it's particularly disruptive or innovative in a you know, freedom and decentralization sense. So we gave up on that. And, you know, one day I'm sitting around and we wanted to set up lightning nodes with each other so that we could start transacting. I mean, felt late to the game. You know, it's 2019 and we hadn't been transacting on lightning yet, and for no other reason other than just we hadn't gotten to it. So Keegan got his set up, no problem. I sit down to set mine up, and you know, I'm not as technical. I haven't been doing CS and programming my entire life. I'm an application developer. I live up here in the stack and can whip out a web app or something like that, but I don't know the gritties. But still, very competent, can absolutely set a lightning node up. Sat down to do it and was like, oh boy, you know, this is 2-3 years after lightning is supposedly kind of viable. And, you know, I've been tracking it and I was like, it's wonderful. But I sat down to set up my own node and just said, there's no way people are going to be able to do this. You know, it was going to take me all weekend, at least. And so I was like, all right, well, can we make it better? And at the time, Casa was striving for this. They had a plug and play Bitcoin node, and they were just introducing Lightning. And so, you know, we said, all right, let's chat with them. So we talked with Jameson and Nick over there, both a couple of great guys. And our main interest in that discussion was, what else can it do? You know, what if I Bitcoin and Lightning are great, but what if, have you thought about email? Have you thought about cloud data storage, right? Are you going to evolve this Bitcoin node into something more general as a sovereignty node, right? Something that I can do personal computing on without trusting third parties. And it became clear very quickly that they didn't really have much of an interest in pursuing that grand vision. They had different ideas for their business, which are wonderful and we support. But we wanted to go after it, and so we did, and we hit the ground running. And within 3 or 4 months, we had a working prototype. We showed up at Tone's Unconfiscatable conference in Vegas last February, which is where we unveiled ourselves and a fully functioning product. We're very much a build first and talk second kind of group. So we showed up there with working devices and started selling them, and slowly but surely have, acquired customers and supporters and partners. And 2020 was quite the effort. It was exciting and it was brutal at the same time in terms of how hard we worked. And now we're entering 2021, and sales are up, and our brand is growing, and our product is better than ever before, but nothing compared to what it's gonna be. And we're excited. We're hiring. Finally, we get to grow the team a little bit and take some of the pressure off, even though we'll probably just add more work to, replace it. So,
gotcha.
That's some background. I don't know. It's not about me, but there's your sort of, 1 year summary.
Sure. Yeah. No. That's very interesting. I'm always intrigued to kind of hear the life cycle story of some of these things that we use, because a lot of times, it's a piece of software that you download, or something you purchase. You don't really know what goes into it. So I enjoy hearing that stuff.
I think it's huge that a lot of it with the decentralization and this whole entire movement is we just focus on the software, but then you kind of trapped by the hardware providers to use a specific software. So I am super excited about the whole. I mean, it's a new movement in and of itself, like inspired by the whole Bitcoin decentralization, but it's more than that.
We learned, last week, what centralized hardware is capable of. Parler, right, got deplatformed from AWS. AWS runs what? Half the internet. I mean, half the internet's running on a switch that can be flipped off at the whim of a company or government. It's not okay. It's dangerous. And hardware is necessary to run software. And we sort of forgot about that. We moved everything to the cloud, and we're working on all these privacy solutions in software, which is not a waste of time, but it's also inadequate. That said, we do not consider ourselves a hardware company. We don't want to be a hardware company. There's actually plenty of great hardware in the world. It doesn't need our innovation. What it needs is an operating system. We use commodity hardware. The embassy, our device, runs on a Raspberry Pi 4 with a micro SD card and a tiny little GPIO speaker so that we can provide audio feedback to the user. And that's it, which means anyone on Earth can build their own. We have a little do-it-yourself instruction guide where somebody can go down to their local hardware store and buy a very commoditized, cheap but powerful personal computer and install Embassy OS, our operating system and real primary value proposition, onto that hardware and be running a completely sovereign computing platform in a matter of minutes. So we, first and foremost, as a company, are operating system developers. That's what we have done, is we've invented a new kind of operating system that is designed to facilitate the discovery, download, installation, configuration, and operation of a personal server that is running self-hosted, open source, sovereign applications. And while that may be a lot of words and sound very niche, in reality, what you can do with this computer, which is really what it is, right? We almost called it a shelf-top computer. That was our initial kind of thinking about this, which we thought would help conceptually convey to people what this does. It's a computer that sits on your shelf. It doesn't have a screen. It doesn't have a keyboard. You use this computer that sits on your shelf from one of your other screens and keyboards. You can use this computer from your existing desktop computer, from your laptop computer, or from your mobile device. And you can use it from anywhere in the world in complete, total, trustless privacy. Okay, this computer is sitting on my shelf in my home. I go to the other side of the world, and I can create a connection with that computer in my home without trusting a single third party.
Okay? I love it.
There's nobody that can cut it off. There's nobody even that knows the communication is happening, let alone what is being said. There's no central service providers. There's nobody to trust. All the communication takes place end-to-end encrypted and onion routed over the Tor network between the Tor service running on my device and the Tor service running on the embassy in my home. And it's over Tor v3 hidden services. So
yeah. I think the most excited, I set one up, I set an embassy up a little bit earlier today. Matt was kind enough to drive one over to my house, actually.
We're not far away.
But it was really interesting to me to see how private I could have been being without having to have take all of the time to set it up. I think that's, to me, was probably what I was most excited about, because I've been messing around with Nextcloud and Home Assistant and, trying to take my privacy seriously. But as someone who's not super technical, I know, enough to be dangerous and set up some different, set up some Docker containers and whatnot and keep it all from crashing. But, I'm not super technically proficient, but this was very easy. It took about 10 minutes to set up, plugged it in, and, got the app on my phone. And, now I'm accessing a program through a Tor onion address that's, that's being run and served up from my basement here. And it was, it made me feel kind of powerful a little bit. I was like, this is really cool. And I know you guys are looking to add some more services, but right now I've got I've got the Bitcoin node is syncing. It won't be done for a little bit, but I was able to get the cups end-to-end encrypted messaging service on there, Bitwarden, and also the file browser, which is just kind of like a real basic Dropbox kind of cloud. I didn't get into that one too much, but I did download it. And all this stuff went in pretty quickly. I like how I can monitor the temperature and the stats on the Raspberry Pi, because do you guys have some passive cooling on it or anything, or it's just you?
Yeah, passive. The cases that we use have metal pillars that go to the hot portions of the board, and
Cool. Yeah, it hasn't gotten over 50 degrees, I don't think. Maybe a hair over 50, but that was installing everything and starting to sync the node. And
Bitcoin's heavy. If it's going to get hot, it's going to get hot when Bitcoin is sinking. So you're looking at it at its most aggressive right now. Those Pi 4s are pretty impressive machines. You don't really need a fan or even passive cooling. They will get hotter and they will run slower, but the hardware and the operating system are quite good at throttling if it needs to keep heat down. So at most you'll see some slowdown, but you won't damage the device.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, yeah, I had a few questions. Chill. I'm sure you have some questions.
Yeah. So with you mentioned that it's you guys aim to become a more, first and foremost, a software company. So how does Embassy OS compare to the current existing sort of privacy focused softwares out there?
So most privacy focused software are what people would refer to as applications or services. We like to call these things services, and even internally we will sometimes call them apps because it's just such an easier word to say. But the problem is that the word app occupies a certain place in people's head, which means an icon on my phone that I can touch. That's not what these things are. These are services. They run 24/7, 365 in the background such that they can do peer-to-peer connections. The fact that they also might serve up a graphical user interface that you can visit in the web is sort of incidental. They are services. So most of the time when somebody says a privacy software, they're talking about an app or a service, right? Something that runs for a particular use case. An example of that would be something like Signal. Right? Signal has been in the news a lot lately because they're acquiring millions, by their own statements, of users who are migrating over from WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and some of these more acknowledged, like not private platforms. So Signal is privacy software. It's an application. And what is often not talked about in the privacy conversation is the sovereignty aspect, right? So Signal is what we call private, not sovereign, right? It is private, but trusted. You are trusting. Yes, you are trusting Signal's benevolence and competency. You are trusting that regulations will not be passed that require Signal to build backdoors into their software. You are trusting that they won't censor you, that you won't just be cut off for talking to the wrong people, right? Just because, let's say Signal is end-to-end encrypted and there's no backdoor, which I think is a safe assumption, right? At least right now. They still know who's talking to whom, right? Person A is talking to person B. They might not know what you're saying, but they know exactly when you're talking and they know who you are.
Yeah.
And that can be enough. Right? In certain times in history and in certain places, that can be enough to incriminate you. And so we believe in real hard privacy, right? Not trusted, benevolent privacy. It's that you should be in total control of your data and communications. And that's really hard to do in the modern world, right? There are people who go to great lengths to maintain their digital privacy, and they always come up short. You have to be so wildly technical to be able to exist on the internet in private, real privacy, that it's really not open to most people. And that is our primary goal, is to bring real sovereign privacy to the non-technical person, to the everyday person. We consider this a revolution in personal computing. We don't view ourselves as a software company or a hardware company. We view ourselves as a computer company, a personal computer company. And we mean that. I mean, our total addressable market, nice common phrase that investors like to hear, our total addressable market at scale is everyone with a computer.
Yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about that. I'm doing kind of a digital detox, spring cleaning of apps. And, if you go through your phone and you just check the apps, you're like, well, which one should I keep? Because you just don't know. They each have their own backdoors and terms and conditions. And I mean, it will take me forever. So I would much rather start fresh with an embassy. Yep. And I know the apps that I'm installing, each one of those are open source and private and
self-hosting, right? It's self-hosted is the thing that still needs to be driven into people's heads. If it's the cloud is just somebody else's computer, okay? That is a statement that cannot be said enough. Every time you hear the word cloud, just replace it with somebody else's computer. And you immediately start to realize the inherent dangers in that. If everything you do is being done through someone else's computer that they have total visibility to, I mean, it'd be like, look, nobody would tolerate sitting in their living room with their spouse or their children having a conversation, and sitting, on the other side of the room is an Apple employee, a Google employee, a Microsoft employee, an Amazon employee, a Signal employee, and they're all just sitting around just listening to your conversation and recording everything that you're saying. And every one of them is going, don't worry, we value your privacy. We're not going to share this with anybody. We're just kind of keeping track of it, right? Like you want that, don't you? And it's like nobody would tolerate that.
Right.
That is how we exist in the world right now. Everything you do on your phone is being monitored by some bot at some company somewhere. And even if they really mean it when they say we value your privacy, as in they aren't building in backdoors and they don't, use it for nefarious purposes, incompetence is a thing. Corruption is a thing, right? All it takes is the right or wrong person to leak the keys, right? So security means there's a key. If there's a lock, there's a key, right? So all your stuff is behind a locked door. Well, where's the key? Somebody, some human somewhere has a key. Whoever that person is can be bought, period. And even if they can't bought, their successor will be bought. It is inevitable that anything worth hacking will be hacked because humans are corruptible. One or the other, right? It's not that every human is corruptible. It's that eventually a human who occupies that seat will be corrupted. It's inevitable.
So I agree with you for sure. And I coming from a place of, a very big privacy advocate and taking my personal, privacy fairly seriously. A big challenge I see with making that shift from where we are now to where, we've got a self-custody solution or what I forget the word that you used there, but we're under controlling our own data in a self-hosted way.
Yeah.
The convenience factor always kind of seems to get, it seems like that's a tough hurdle to overcome. Like all this stuff, while yes, they are sitting in the room with you and recording everything, it's just so much more convenient. Like what, I guess, what do you think about that? I mean, do people just need to start taking their privacy more seriously, or is it something where you think the tech can grow to a point where it's just the convenience issue isn't as big of a deal as it might be today? Because that seems like what you guys are trying to do.
Yeah, so there's a couple questions there. So let me
yeah, that was a lot.
I got it all. Let me address them one at a time here. So there is a trade-off currently between convenience and privacy. Or I should say between convenience and sovereignty, because Signal is quite convenient, but it's not sovereign, okay? So if you want to do self-hosted, AKA non-custodial computing, where nobody is in custody of your data or gatekeeping your communications, if you want to do sovereign, self-hosted, non-custodial computing, it is incredibly inconvenient, okay? It's almost impossible, actually, to do for any normal person. Okay, you have to be highly technical, and you have to have a lot of time too. It's not, even if you're a technical person, this still takes time. Let's talk about your experience real quick, just to show how far we've come. You earlier today were able to set up a physical hardware device running a new age operating system, and within a matter of minutes, install a Bitcoin full node, a self-hosted Bitwarden password manager, a self-hosted peer-to-peer messaging application, and a self-hosted personal cloud data storage application. Every single one of those is hosted on a device in your home on its own website that is served up on a Tor v3 hidden service that you can access from any browser in the world. You did all of that without needing any technical knowledge of anything that I just said by pressing a few buttons. Is it as easy as buying a MacBook and starting to type your message because it auto-synced your contacts and already knew who you were talking to? Of course not. But we've been in existence for 1 year. Apple's been doing it for 40. So we will catch up, okay? It's a long road, but our goal ultimately is what we call convenience parity. We want to match the convenience of the trusted custodial computing model. We will never match it. It is impossible, actually, to match it. But it's a limiting function to zero. We can get closer and closer and closer, but we can never match it simply because of that inherent, like, they can do things for you that we will never be able to do. For example, something we will never be able to do is recover your password. If you lose your password, it's over. Okay, it's the same thing with your Bitcoin mnemonic seed. We don't live in a password recovery world here. If you have data on your embassy and it is encrypted with that password, right, which not all of it is right now, but we will be moving towards full disk encryption at some point in the near future, but certain things are encrypted with it. If you lose the password, there's nobody to call. There's no forgot password button. There's no no helpline.
With more freedom comes more responsibility, and I think I mean with the audience we have tonight, I mean everybody pretty much understands that, but that is
right.
Yeah, I mean that's in my mind that's kind of the biggest trade-off, is if you want the freedom and the ability to have more control over this stuff, it does come with that trade-off of you have more responsibility now. But I feel like the world is moving, or is hopefully starting to wake up. It seems like people are starting to wake up, like, oh wow, like maybe it isn't so great that I have no control over all of my data, and that I'm being potentially psychologically manipulated through the harvesting of my data, and what does all that mean? So I take this more seriously.
And that's even just some of the annoyance stuff. That's not even the dangerous stuff. There's places on Earth right now where you say the wrong thing at the wrong place online, and it could be dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't get that bad here, but
right,
to prepare. So anyway, look, the convenience thing is the essence of our business. If we can't make it convenient, we have no business, right? So our goal, our thought process every day is, how do we make this product easier to use without sacrificing the principles of decentralization and trustlessness? Okay. It is a constant fight, because every time you want to make something more convenient, there's this temptation to start stepping in and doing things for the user. And so what we have to do is, we're the IKEA of personal computing. Okay. It's like our hypothesis is that people actually like doing things themselves, so long as it's a succinct instruction set that anyone can follow, right? Like most people in the modern world have a baseline education, regardless of how far they went, where they everyone can build IKEA furniture, right? And there's a sense of self-satisfaction that comes along with completing those projects. You're like, look what I just built, right? Well, you didn't whittle the wood, you didn't pull out the saw and build it from scratch like devs were doing 10 years ago to be private. It's like, you just had to put it together. And even then, we're like really basic IKEA, like you saw today when you put yours together. When I say put it together, you literally had to plug it into a wall and a router. But anyone can do it. Our slogan on our website right now is, anyone can do it, no one can stop it. And we strive for those two seemingly opposing concepts every day.
Yeah, no, it's impressive, man. I'm pretty impressed with what y'all have built, and I'm excited to see what comes next. I had two questions, but I think there's a question in the chat that I want to actually ask you first. Mark Kingston wanted to know, how many password tries do you get before getting locked out?
Infinite.
Infinite. Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, you get as you'd like.
Yeah. So we don't have rate limiting on the password right now. So your embassy is protected in two ways. Now that might have scared some of the listeners right now, and they're like, well, if there's no limit to how many times you can try,
one try,
then I can throw a bot at it and guess a billion passwords. It's true. Okay. So we are implementing a rate limiting thing that will set a increasing timeout, very standard stuff. We have had to be very selective about what we build and when. We want to do everything. And the number one question that we get asked in our chat is, when this, when that. And I'm like,
right?
People sitting in a room, we're getting to it. We're hiring. So the reason we didn't prioritize that, the reason that wasn't an immediate priority, is because inherently your embassy is safe simply because nobody even knows that the Tor v3 URL exists. So when you spin up your embassy for the first time, your phone, the phone that you use to set it up, actually creates an ED25519 private key and then sends it over to the embassy, encrypted over the local area network of your home. And then your embassy uses that private key to create a corresponding Tor public key that is your Tor v3 URL. So nobody knows that your embassy website even exists, let alone the ability to visit it and try to brute force your password. Secondly, we are so early on that, people are not really relying on these yet. This is like a acknowledged beta technology. At least we hope that we convey that, right? It's convenient, but it's sort of like Lightning Network. Like, don't put anything on there that you're not willing to lose right now. We're in 0.2.8. We are in beta phase. So it is secure in the sense that nobody even knows your URL exists. You would have to leak it just so anyone could even try to visit it. And then secondly, it's protected by a password of your choosing, a minimum length of 12 characters, which is going to be very hard to brute force unless you created a stupid, simple password.
Like 1, 2, yeah, up to 12. Gotcha. Related to the kind of like when this, are you guys currently accepting like open source contributions? I mean, are you maintaining, how's the what's the code base look like? I think it's, I'll just let you answer it. I looked into it a little bit, but I don't think I found a definitive answer.
Yeah, we were closed source until December. We never intended to remain closed source. We opened up closed source because it was an active, internal development, and we wanted to have some audits done and make sure that, it was safe to do. And there's a lot of, debate to be had about when to open source something. Some people would say right from the get-go and damn the vulnerabilities and all that. But we did it when we were comfortable, and there was never a doubt that it was going to be done. And we welcome anyone who wants to get in there and help out. We have a major update coming that is going to dramatically change the essential architecture of Embassy OS. We, have a lot of services that we want to add, and many of them are awaiting a couple very key features that we are actively working on right now, day and night. And anybody who wants to help out is welcome to. It's a fully open source project, and I don't think we've had any major contributions from community developers yet.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Monero node, obviously. When Monero?
Yeah, so when?
Yeah.
Monero is
that matters.
Yeah, so Monero is a priority for us. I use a priority, not the priority. It's important for us for a couple of reasons. We are a privacy sovereignty platform, and so we consider it appropriate to enable some of the more acknowledged privacy-oriented cryptocurrency and blockchain networks. We also want to make it clear that nobody has to do anything, right? This is like having a phone and you choose what you want to install. It's your computer, it's sovereign computing. We're not going to tell you you can't do something. So whether somebody likes Monero or not, or the tribalism of this crypto and that crypto, and we don't want any part of it. We have our own internal beliefs. I have my personal beliefs. I love Bitcoin with a million hearts. And that's my main stance. But I support anything that is trying to be open source and decentralized and private and sovereign. So Monero is on our radar, and will be available as soon as we have external drive support. Monero does have support for pruned nodes, and so we could add it now prior to adding external drive support, but we want to do our updates to the OS before we start adding additional things that are potentially heavy on compute and potentially heavy on storage, because we want to make sure that the operating system can handle the interplay between these services. Gotcha.
And you don't have to give away too much, but is Nextcloud under the same kind of boat as that is with the since it's a bit storage heavy?
Yeah, Nextcloud is like a golden child of ours. We have a few really big ones that we're excited about. So Nextcloud is one of them. Matrix right now is probably the one that gets talked about the most, because Matrix is undergoing rapid, fantastic development right now. There are multiple implementations of the Matrix protocol, and it's just pure self-hosted, federated, peer-to-peer messaging with all the stops, right? So you got like Cups, for instance, is on the Embassy right now, and Cups is a service and protocol that we wrote, kind of as like I don't know, it's like our demo app almost. Like Cups was just something that we threw together, mostly Aiden threw together over the course of, a week, and then Aaron put together a nice UI for it. And, it's peer-to-peer. It's like you want to have a totally private conversation with somebody over the Tor network, end-to-end encrypted, onion routed, where nobody else on earth even knows the conversation is happening. You can use Cups for that. But it's never going to become like Signal or Telegram or Slack, right? Like we are not personally going to put the effort into Cups to make it like a major chat competitor. I shouldn't say never. It's possible. It's open source. Depends on how much interest other developers get into developing Cups. But quite frankly, Matrix already nailed it. It's a wonderful service, and we'll be coming to the embassy. We are basically waiting right now on, I believe, Dendrite, one of the implementations of Matrix, to cross one more milestone in their development before we add it. Nextcloud is a big deal. Home Assistant will eventually be a really cool one for us, because we can turn the embassy kind of into the hub of your smart home, the brain of your smart home, and do that by using Home Assistant. And then there's the whole Bitcoin stack. Right? Everything Bitcoin imaginable is going to be available in the embassy, all of it. So everything Lightning, everything Bitcoin. BTC Pay is coming very soon. Actually, BTC Pay is
that's big too.
I won't say a priority. I'll say the priority. BTC Pay is coming imminently.
I was looking into setting up a BTC Pay server the other day, so that would be awesome if I could just add it as a service on the embassy.
Yep, add a service on the embassy, pops out as a Tor v3 URL, and you're off and running. Yeah.
Oh man, that's cool. And yeah, Home Assistant too. Sorry, I'm just kind of nerding out here, but I've been setting up a bunch of CO2 sensors, and I'm going to start monitoring my water inflow from the water main, just for like leak monitoring and stuff, and all that's run through Home Assistant. So I'm excited for that one too. But yeah, Chill, did you have? You look like I cut you off there.
Yes. So regulation next. I'm not particularly familiar with what applies to you guys, but I'm always kind of interested, especially now we're seeing like anti-encryption laws popping up, and things are getting kind of on the slippery slope, if you know what I mean. And I want to see, like, what do you foresee? Because the way I see it, it's highly likely that in the next couple years we're gonna start seeing, just like in Australia, they started passing these anti-encryption laws, and how would that affect the whole open source community and by default? You guys.
So the laws, there's been a few attempts over the years to go after encryption in various forms. The two that have been in the headlines most recently, at least in the United States, are earn it and lead to lawful access to encrypted data. And these are similar in essence, in that they propose to make service providers of privacy and encryption services liable for the data and communications that flow through their network, and to require of them backdoors to the encryption. Okay. So in other words, if you are a company that stores the data of individuals, customers, or you are a company that facilitates communications between two parties, and encryption is involved in that service, that you may be required by law to build in a backdoor, a sort of master key, that can grant law enforcement under presumably subpoena to open it up and hand over the data. Obviously, a lot of people are concerned about this because I think not so much that they're concerned that, some people are just like, no, under no circumstances should law enforcement ever have access to data, period, right? But then there's a whole other group of people that are like, look, like if there's actually a warrant, like if it actually went through due process and there's a warrant, then they should have access to it. But even those people are like, we know that's not going to happen. We know that it's not actually going to abide by this warrant search, right? There's Patriot Act and things like that enable warrantless searches and seizures of data, especially if stored on digital data stored on a third party is actually not protected by Fourth Amendment rights. This was something that we learned even after starting this company, is that your data sitting on Google Drive law enforcement does not need a warrant to go request that from Google. They have to hand it over without a warrant.
Neither do hackers, so.
Correct. So this isn't about whether law enforcement should or should not have the right to seek information if there's probable cause and a reason to do it. It's that that's not even required. It's just like, it's public information, basically. And so people are concerned. Now, how does that affect us? It doesn't. We don't have any customer data at all, encrypted or unencrypted. If you buy an embassy from us and we ship it to you, we have your name and shipping address and the knowledge that you purchased an embassy, which we will purge from our servers as soon as the transaction is complete and we can get it done. Right now, unfortunately, we are using Shopify to fulfill our physical embassy purchases. We went with them for expediency. It was extremely convenient for us, right? Here's the convenience thing, to set up a Shopify e-commerce site and start selling embassies. We, after transactions are completed, request from Shopify that the customer data be deleted, and they will comply within 90 days is their sort of policy. So eventually everything will be purged, but we can't guarantee that Shopify is actually purging it. Secondly, we're going to be moving off of them, in which case we will control that and delete it as soon as the transaction is done. And thirdly, there's nothing incriminating about that, right? It's not financial information. It's literally the knowledge that so-and-so bought an embassy. That's about as useful as knowing that so-and-so bought a MacBook, right? It's like so-and-so bought a computer. It doesn't say anything about what they're using it for. It doesn't say if they ever plugged it in, nothing. We have no usage data whatsoever. All we have is the initial thing that we needed to ship. However, we also sell Embassy OS. We sell our operating system as a standalone product, which enables somebody to go out and put their own Raspberry Pi together, their own hardware, and then buy the operating system from us. And that is done with no information, right? That you type in an email, could be any email you want, as long as you can access the inbox. You pay with Bitcoin. We give you an access key to download Embassy OS. Can be done over Tor. We offer this on our Tor v3 website. You don't even have to go through ClearNet to do this. And then as soon as the transaction's done, we delete your email and it's over. We have no idea who our customers are. Zero.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, no, that's that's good to know. And related to the like the purchase side of it, you mentioned just purchasing the operating system and not the actual physical hardware. Is that possible right now, or is that coming soon? Somebody can buy it. And okay, and so I guess the second question there is, if someone, I mean, is the only way to get your hands on Embassy OS to purchase it and then be issued like a product key that you use to set up the device, or is that something
you can build from? It's open source software. You can build it from source.
Okay, so
you buy it from us for two reasons. It's super convenient, because building from source is not the most straightforward thing, especially for most people.
Right.
And two, because you support our work and want to pay for something.
Right. Gotcha. So yeah, like making a donation to,
donation in exchange for an operating system,
or something.
for the convenience of giving it to you fully compiled, right? It's
gotcha.
Yeah, so it's a convenience. Since open sourcing the software, we've had this really odd observation, which is that we previously only sold the hardware with Embassy OS pre-installed, and then by very popular demand, we started selling the operating system, especially for international customers who didn't want to pay the shipping. It can get very expensive to ship across the world. So we started selling Embassy OS at the same time that we open sourced Embassy OS. So we introduced two new ways of obtaining the operating system on the same day. One is build from source, one is buy the operating system. And the existing way was to buy a device. Since we did that, device sales have outsold Embassy OS sales 8-1, and Embassy OS sales have outpaced build from source 30-1.
Whoa.
So
nice.
You try to give something away for free, but people are still going to pay for it.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's a great.
It's even slightly more convenient. which is great. Right? We need to fund the company. I mean, if you like our work, like you're not gonna have a problem buying something from us. It's not like it's super expensive. We're not gouging people. I mean, this is cheaper than than a nice dinner out.
I did. What is it? What is the price right now? Because you guys are taking Bitcoin for it, right?
We only take Bitcoin for Embassy OS, and we price it in Sats. So the US dollar or fiat equivalent of Embassy OS fluctuates day by day. In fact, it's on huge sale right now. The price of Embassy OS plummeted today.
It's dropping as we speak. Oh, that's great. It looks like we had another question here in the chat. Actually, now that I'm reading this, I'm not sure. So have you guys made any like super easy demo videos showing how to set up and use? It says Sovereign here, but I think they're talking about Embassy. It says, I'm a bit technical, but not enough to easily set it up. I think you might be underestimating how easy it is to set up. And I can speak from personal experience. It's not, I mean, a demo video, I guess, would have been helpful to me, but the app that you download to your phone is pretty straightforward and walks you through. I mean, you put in like 2 pieces of information and like confirm your password, and that's about it. And then you just go to the website, the Onion address that it gives you, and you know, at that point it just kind of walks you through it. So I don't know, Matt, if you wanted to respond as well, but it was very, I think you'd be surprised how easy it is to set up. Sorry, the dog.
It's you know, unless there's something weird with your network configuration, like you got some kind of mesh network set up in your home and the thing can't find it on the LAN, or you have a firewall, but assuming a normal kind of configuration, our device is easier to set up than an Alexa. It's easier to set up than a Google Home. You know, we've been side by side. It is about as easy as it gets. You plug it into the wall, you open up an app, you follow 2 instructions, and you're done. It can get more complicated as you start to do more and more advanced things with it. But the sort of basic, you know, beginner use path is straightforward. And you install something that you want to install, and it spits out a URL. And then you visit that URL in the browser, and you're using your own private, invisible, secret website on Tor right out of the browser from anywhere in the world. So it's totally usable. Now, that said, we are about to put an enormous amount of emphasis on education, tutorials, blog posts. You know, we spent a lot of time building a product that we believed to be largely self-explanatory, very intuitive, very easy to use. But even though you are able to use this product, we think it is highly beneficial to understand it. We think it is important that people understand the difference between using a hosted privacy solution and running a self-hosted sovereign solution, and how important that difference is, and in growing in importance, right? It may not have been important if everything's working great, but as things teeter in the world, this becomes more and more important. And so we want to educate. And so we're about to put a lot of effort. One of the roles that we're hiring for is a marketing lead who will primarily be responsible for this effort, you know, along with myself and the rest of the team. But we will have educational materials that you will swim in. I mean, we're going to have blog posts, we're going to have YouTube videos, we're going to have interactive educational materials where we'll send you, you know, you'll open the door and we'll send you down the rabbit hole. We're going to like, we think education is paramount.
Yes.
And so, you know, those who are part of our community who have purchased embassies and had questions will be the first, I believe, to cite how helpful we are, how friendly we are. I mean, I and the rest of the team, for better or worse, kind of live in the community channels. We answer questions in a matter of seconds. We are gradually building out our documentation and now turning to enhanced means of documentation and education, such as videos. So somebody at Bitcoin Magazine did a video on setting up the embassy. It was like a 101, like, hey, I just got my embassy, I'm going to set it up type of thing. If you want to check that out, I don't have a link off the top of my head here.
About 5 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's not much there. More of the educational materials and the videos that we're going to do are going to be more on the like, okay, so now that you've gotten your embassy set up and you want to use Bitwarden in Firefox to manage your ClearNet website passwords, is like, we're going to show you how to do that, because there's a couple more steps involved.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So let's here, we got another question. I think I can probably guess your answer to this based on your position on Bitcoin, but someone asked, what do you think about incentivizing support for the Tor network? Will there be an embassy coin of some sort possible?
No, there won't be an embassy coin. Now, support for the Tor network, I'm not sure how those two relate, I guess. It was the implication that supporting the Tor network.
I guess incentivizing people to run a Tor relay, or does it already do that, or do you have to select that? Or
so coming soon to an embassy near you is a Tor relay node. So it won't be a service in the store. It'll be a toggle in settings. So you'll go into your embassy settings and there will be a little toggle that's on or off. And if you turn it on, your embassy will be a Tor relay node, right? So to date, we've been a bunch of freeloaders on Tor. We're using Tor and bogging the network down, right? Not that there's that many embassies that were actually bogging it down, but like at scale, this doesn't work. So we are going to start giving back to Tor, and every embassy will optionally for the user, but by default be a Tor relay node, which makes Tor more robust. It makes Tor faster. And we recently learned something we didn't know before, even before we decided to do this, that if you are running a Tor relay node, the Tor protocol algorithm will actually favor your node and make it faster. Oh. Not just because the network is faster, but it actually is like, hey, if you run a relay node, like we're gonna make
you're helping us out, we'll help you out.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And what's really cool about our stuff too is that there's no exit nodes involved, right? So a lot of times Tor rightfully is identified as a net more than a tunnel, right? Like you use Tor, and you're basically, I want to talk about this for a second. So I forget where I heard this. It may have been an Elon Musk or a Peter Thiel talk or book. I don't remember, but it was a discussion about Israeli cybersecurity firm about 15, 20 years ago. Ultimately got bought by PayPal, I believe. Their essential thesis as a company was bad guys hide, good guys don't. And the entire cybersecurity model and algorithm was built off of that very bland, basic statement, okay? Good people don't hide. Bad people do hide. Now, that's not always true, but that is how they built their model. And what that means in practice is this. If you have a Facebook account and you use it, you're of zero interest. Zero. you won't even be looked at because you're not hiding, right? You're using the things that are there and sort of known to be spying on you. You're using it, so you got nothing to hide. You're of no interest. If you delete your Facebook account and start using Signal, now you're under a microscope. This is the sort of like approach to surveillance that is taken, at least by this company, and I would imagine many, many surveillance companies. It's that the harder you try to hide, the more you shine. Because unless you succeed in hiding completely, any slip up at all, and you're of complete interest now. You're completely doxxed. So you better be perfect, or you better just use Facebook. Okay. So again, you can agree with that or disagree with it to varying degrees. But the point of that is that things like Tor, right, assuming that hypothesis is at all true, and you are using Tor to visit a ClearNet website, so I go to blah, blah, blah.com on using the Tor browser. In order to visit that .com website, I have to go through what's called an exit node, right? Tor has guard nodes, relay nodes, and exit nodes. If you go through a Tor exit node, there's very few of them, and they're very heavily regulated, which means all the traffic that's coming out of a Tor exit node is subject to inspection, and they are held liable for any site that they direct you to. So for example, if I go to a bad website, something that is forbidden using Tor, the person who operates the Tor exit node can actually be held liable. Okay, so using Tor to do your normal web browsing is arguably, I'm not saying that it is, but there is an argument to be made that it is actually worse than using Safari or Firefox, normal browser, because that's where it could be assumed the bad people are hiding.
Right. Puts you in the bucket, yeah.
Yeah, so what's cool about our product is there's no exit nodes involved at all. When you communicate with your embassy, it's nothing, it's just guard, relay your node. There's no exit nodes. Because you're not leaving the Tor network, right? Exit means leave. When you're visiting a Tor website, you're not exiting Tor. It's an onion URL, you're in Tor, so there's no exit node. So that potential vulnerability does not apply to us.
Interesting.
Cool.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, no, that's very good to know. And so I don't know, Chill, do you have any more questions?
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your vision about the mesh network, because that's something that excites me as well.
Okay. Yeah. At this point, it's a blurry vision in the distance. We don't have concrete plans. Here's what we know. Ultimately, we got to fight the ISPs. Okay, because right now you plug your embassy in, plug it into a router, and you need an internet connection to use your embassy. Right now, the traffic might be encrypted and onion routed, and everything you're doing might be private. But if your internet gets turned off, you're cut off from your device. So there's still this sort of ultimate battle with the internet itself, right? The internet itself is somewhat centralized. And so, a way out of this is mesh networks. This idea that of a decentralized internet that, I'm running. It's kind of how the original internet was designed, by the way, and it sort of became a hub and spoke model and very decentralized. But, each computer on the network is storing a subset of data, and you can fetch it using hyperlinks and yada, yada. But you have to physically be able to reach these other devices in your geographic area. And we've seen some cool stuff lately about new technologies that are enabling extended, reach of mesh networks, where you can over, even miles and miles of distance, my device can talk to your device. And so we originally called Embassy OS Mesh OS, because we sort of knew that eventually this is what it would come to, that any given, that we are going to integrate mesh technology and router technology into the embassy. A future iteration of the embassy, currently going under the working title of Embassy Home, will double as a router. It will be, a privacy router in your home that will also be a personal server and all the other things that the embassy is. And that in time, we would like it such that if you have an embassy in your home and your neighbor has an embassy in their home and somebody down the street has an embassy and somebody across town has an embassy, that these things can begin to form a physically geographic, based on hardware, intranet, a subnet. And then that can connect to other networks and ultimately sort of form a new internet where everyone is running hardware in their home that is connected to hardware in other people's homes for the purpose of relaying bits.
So with a sub, are you still going over the ISP? Are you still using the ISP to get onto the subnet, or how does that?
Subnet was the wrong word.
Okay.
Yeah. So network architecture is not my specialty. So
no worries.
Let me preface that with this. And like I said, this is a blurry thing out there. You want to talk details about this, you can talk to the McClelland brothers, my partners. Okay. This is their area. I'm an application developer. But basically, the idea is that, no, you would not have to go through the ISPs. So the ISPs are plugging you into the World Wide Web, right? This sort of, this network of interconnected devices that we call the internet. And what I'm saying is that you and I can form our own internet. If I connect my computer to your computer and my computer has some information stored on its hard drive, and your computer has some information stored on its hard drive, then I can hyperlink to your computer, and we can just talk like this over radio waves, right? It's like we don't need the internet. Think about two-way radios, right? Like that's not riding on the cell towers. You can create direct connections between computers. So if you can connect two computers, then you can connect three, and you can connect four, and you can build these grassroots networks. Now they have no access to the other networks necessarily. You could, right? So say for instance, I have an embassy and somebody down the street has an embassy and somebody further has an embassy and they're connected to the ISP. They have access to the internet. In theory, I could get access to the internet through them, right? So I use this mesh network in order to sort of find a way into the internet. But at some point, if our network gets big enough, why do you need to hack into the internet? What do you even need the old network for? If our network has all the same stuff, right? We've downloaded all of Wikipedia, we've downloaded all of IPFS, we've downloaded and we've sharded it over all these computers, right? In a brick by brick way. There's no reason for anyone eventually to go to the old internet, this thing that is over there. We can build our own network.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's an incredible vision, but yeah, I mean, that's off in the future for sure.
Yeah, we're not focused on that right now. Right now, we're focused on delivering a product that rides on the existing pipes of the world, what we call the internet, but sort of tunnels under it using the most advanced technology we have, which is Tor, V3, self-hosting, and encryption. But eventually we sort of know that there's this opportunity that will inherently grow out of success, right? If we sell enough embassies all over the world and these things have the ability to reach out to each other directly, not over the internet, but directly, then they can form their own network, especially if you start getting satellites involved.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know how familiar you are with the Althea network up in Oregon, or maybe you've just never heard of it, but they're doing mesh networking out in basically the rural areas, and they're using like line of sight. I forget what exactly they're using to transmit it, but it'll be like somebody's cabin up on the top of a mountain, and then there's somebody, 5 miles away. They beam a link down to them, and then it just relays itself back until somebody is tied into fiber or has some sort of World Wide Web access. And yeah, I mean, the potential there is really cool, but definitely it's not going to be live tomorrow. It's
they're bootstrapping an internet connection from somebody that has it, right? Which is cool. There's no problem with that, but that's not what the golden goose here is. It's bigger than that.
Gotcha.
And I'm not the person to explain the technicals of it, clearly.
No worries. I mean, we cover a pretty broad range of topics here, so it's fun to get into this stuff. But yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah. So let's see here. We're just at about an hour. Did you wanna run through the demo at all? Were you able to bring that up, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could do a quick demo.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fun way to kind of close it out and just let everybody take a look at what we've all been kind of nerding out on and talking about. Let them actually see it. But yeah, if you all have any like kind of last questions, I see a couple in there in the chat. But why don't you guys just type your questions in the chat, and then we'll have Matt do the demo, and then ask a couple other questions, and then that'll probably be it.
Okay.
I need to give you permission to share your screen. Where's my mouse? All right, you should be good.
Okay, live demos are fun. Let's hope everything works, huh? Okay.
God, let's just go so south on me.
So this is not a demo of setting up the device. This is what it looks like after it's set up. But as we mentioned, setup is pretty basic. So all right, so I'll share. Okay. Can you see it okay?
And let's see, the stream here is a little delay. Hopefully it goes to full screen. I think you're good.
Okay, so as you'll see here in the URL bar, I'm not doing this over Tor because it is totally possible to use your embassy on the local area network of your home. You have to be connected to that local area network, which I am, as in my computer is connected to the same Wi-Fi network as my embassy. So I can use it over its .local address as opposed to its .onion Tor address. So I'm going to go ahead and log in, and this is over HTTPS, so it is encrypted SSL. So this is my demo box, so it's got the dumbest password possible. Okay. So anyway, so I have 3 services currently installed. You can see that I have Bitcoin Core installed. I have Bitcoin Proxy, which is a cool little thing that sits in front of your core node and allows permissioned access so that I can give friends and family access to my Bitcoin Core node using their own credentials. And then I also have LND installed. None of them are running. And you'll see that LND, for instance, is like, says I have a dependency issue. So I'm going to come over here and click fix. And it's basically telling me that LND needs both Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Proxy, and that Bitcoin Core is not running. So LND is like, hey, I'm no use to you if Bitcoin is not running. So let's go in here and start Bitcoin. Actually, let me install another service or two before I start Bitcoin, just to kind of show how that works. So these are your installed services. I can look at the Embassy tab. So here's, about, tells me the Tor address. Monitor is going to give me all the, running at 58 degrees Celsius, tells me the percent used, all this stuff. So this is giving me live stats of the physical device. Config, right? I can set a name for the embassy. It's the only config option right now. I can check for updates. Tells me I'm up to date. Secure LAN setup. I did this in order to, be able to use it on my local area network. Wi-Fi, I could add credentials, right? So I could actually unplug my embassy from the router and just put Wi-Fi credentials in there. So that way it doesn't need to be plugged into my router. I could put it, on my shelf somewhere in my house. Developer options, it will allow me to add SSH keys. So that way I can SSH into the box if I'm a dev. We don't recommend this for most people. I can restart it or I can shut it down. Some pretty basic stuff. Marketplace, you'll see I can come in here and I have, all these apps that I can install or services, right? So you can see I already have Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Proxy, and Lightning Network installed. So let's go ahead and install Burn After Reading. Okay. So it shows here, Burn After Reading is a simple, fast, standalone service that uses Tor.onion ephemeral links to share encrypted messages and files that are destroyed, aka burned, after they are viewed. Content is stored directly on the embassy and there are no trusted third parties. So what Burn After Reading allows me to do is basically create a secret and share it with somebody using a Tor v3 ephemeral link such that after they click that link and view my message or file, it just blows up. It's like Snapchat. It's how Snapchat was supposed to be, except this is like provably destroyed because it's running on your own server. So I just hit install. It says ready. All installation requirements for Burn After Reading 1.0.1.0 are met. So I click install. And boom, tells me that the installation is in progress and I will receive a notification when it has completed. So I hit dismiss and you can see that Burn After Reading is installing and boom, there we go, it's installed. So I view the notification, it tells me that I successfully installed Burn After Reading, blah, blah, blah. So I go to my services, there's Burn After Reading. So I click it and it's gonna say it needs config, all right? So it needs config, great, configure. So initial config, to use the default config for Burn After Reading, click save below. And the only thing it needs is a password. So if I wanted to, I could come in here and change the password, but it created a default one for me. So for the sake of this demo, let's change the password. So I'm gonna make it password 123 because that is secure. And save. Boom, Burn After Reading is now configured. It has password 123 as its password, and it's not running, so I'm gonna go ahead and start it. Bing. Okay, So burn after reading is now running. I can create a backup. I can restore from a backup if I had created a backup previously. I can check for updates. Nope, I'm running the latest of burn after reading. That makes sense because I just installed it. I can click instructions and it tells me exactly how to use it. So browsers, copy paste your bar burn after reading Tor address into any Tor enabled browser. Options include Start9 Consulate, Tor browser, Firefox, Brave, and then log in with your bar password and bookmark the site for future use or save it to your Bitwarden server. Great. So it's telling me that in order to use burn after reading, all I have to do is visit its Tor address. So here we go. So do this. I actually don't know if my wife has onion addresses enabled. I think she does. Good. Okay. So we already have Firefox configured to run, to do onion addresses. So here you go. So what's important to recognize here is that this website that I am visiting, this blah, 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 .onion, is a website that is being served from a device that's sitting in my living room over the internet on an encrypted onion routed tunnel that nobody else on earth even knows exists. Like this website right here, this onion address, is known only to me and everyone watching this call right now. It is known to nobody else on earth. And I have a password, just in case anyone ever did get this, right? And you'll see in a minute, I'm actually gonna give it to someone. They still need a password to get in. So the password is password 123. I can take a look at that and make sure it's right. Good. Log in. Boom. This is burn after reading. So I can create a message. Hello world. Or if I wanted to, I could upload a file. I could upload a picture, a financial document, anything I considered to be secret, safe, important, right? So let's go hello world. And I'm going to go up here and configure it. It says, burns automatically in. Well, I could burn it automatically in 10 minutes, meaning if nobody views my message in 10 minutes, it just explodes. Or I could set it for, the default is a day. So let's go with a day. And I can encrypt it. This is optional, right? In other words, I could send this link to somebody and whoever clicks it first can view my secret message. They don't need any password, nothing. It's just fast, I send it to you, you view it and it's done. Or I could encrypt it. And in this case, we'll use the password, password 321 instead of 123. Great. Okay. And then I hit save. Bing. So it just created a unique link that'll never be created again. This is a one-of-a-kind link in all of history. So I hit copy. And then I can go to another tab. Now, presumably, I would send this link to somebody, right? Like I would send this to one of you or a friend or family who I wanted to view my secret message. I would give them this link and they would go to, here and insert it. And immediately prompts them to decrypt it because I encrypted it. So I type in, hey there, and it's going to tell me error incorrect, password incorrect, because that wasn't the password I used to encrypt it. So again, recognize that nobody on earth even knows that this URL exists, let alone the password I used to encrypt it. So I tell you the password, right? Like I whisper it in your ear, or we sort of have a password that we always use. And you're going to go password 321, view, and there it is. It says, hello world. I can copy it. I can download it to my computer. And then at the bottom here, it says, this content will be burned as soon as you leave this page. So the second I close this window, that message is gone from the world history. It is deleted from a physical device that's sitting in my living room. But I could burn it now by clicking burn now. And there it goes. And now it says there's nothing here. Perhaps there never was. Okay. and it's gone. All right. So that is burn after reading. And I could do a new one. And again, this works with files. I can just drag a file up here and share it. And it's gone. Okay. Beautiful. Perfectly sovereign. Nobody else is involved in that transaction whatsoever. No third parties. Okay, so that's burn after reading. I can view the logs, right? In this case, there's nothing, cool to see, but that's more for developers. And then I can uninstall it if I really want, okay? So just so nobody tries to use my Onion URL here, which I just leaked all over the internet, I'm gonna uninstall it.
There we go.
Now, the cool thing is that when I go to reinstall it, it'll be a different Onion URL. So I can actually rotate the URL in case I'm afraid that it ever leaked.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was my question earlier. It was like, I wanted to share my screen, but am I going to just dox myself? But if I uninstall and reinstall, then
yeah,
I'm good. That's good.
So now if someone were to try to visit that Onion URL, it just wouldn't even exist, right? So let's go over here and I'll show you. So I'm going to visit the same URL I was just on. And it's going to, in about 60 seconds, tell me it timed out because the server doesn't exist, right? I just deleted a server from existence. So it's gone. Yeah. All right. So now let's talk Bitcoin for a second. Because so anyway, here's what else is on the marketplace. So we have Spark Wallet, which is connects through C Lightning. So we actually have two different Lightning Network implementations. We have LND and C Lightning because we believe competition is good, and that giving our customers the choice of which one they run is a good thing. So if you want to use Spark Wallet, you're going to have to install C Lightning, and so you can see that. So I'll go into Spark, and it's like, I could install it, but then down here it tells me that its dependencies, are C Lightning and that is not installed, but I could absolutely just go get it and install C Lightning. And it tells me right here that, this will be compatible with Spark. So it's all very, very guided. It's really hard to mess up this installation flow because we made it such that like anything that any of these services needs is just like a big fat message right at the top of the screen telling you exactly what to do. Like I said, it's sort of IKEA. It's like, yes, you're doing it, but anyone can do it. It's not that bad. You just have to look at the screen and do what it says. File browser, like you said, is basically a self-hosted Google Drive, right? This is, or self-hosted Dropbox. It's basically the same as Dropbox, except totally self-hosted on my own server. So while that's installing, I will show you what it's like to fire up Bitcoin. So file browser is installing. Let's go over here to Bitcoin and hit start.
This is all running on a Raspberry Pi 4 gig memory.
Yep, this is running on a $55 commodity computer. It's pretty cool.
And one other caveat, I would, there is a noticeable difference accessing Onion URLs just because you're getting bounced around everywhere. So it's not actually the embassy itself that's, maybe running a little bit slower than you might be used to. It's that you're using an Onion address, which is just something I noticed, but that's using Tor. That's just how it goes.
It's a small price to pay for real privacy, we think. And we can make it faster. So we will make it significantly faster, not only by improving the Tor speeds, which we have a couple low-hanging fruits that we can do to make it noticeably faster, but we also are designing our own protocol such that your device, your computer, and your embassy will actually bootstrap a connection with each other using Tor, as in your computer will discover your embassy over its Tor address. But as soon as that connection is made, they can exchange some cryptographic keys and then actually start talking directly, which will make basically the initial load of any given service will be like a little slow, but then after that, it'll be clear net speeds.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's like one of the biggest gripes with Tor is the speed.
Yep. Yeah, so we want to use Tor to make connections, not to persist connections. All right, so now everything's running. So I got Bitcoin running, I got Bitcoin proxy running, I got Lightning Network daemon running. So if I go into Bitcoin, you can see here, this is my Bitcoin Tor address. That's using a Tor v2 address because Tor v3 addresses only became possible for Bitcoin with 0.21.0, which will be released in the next couple of days for us, which is pretty cool. And this will switch to a V3 address. And you can see here, so instructions, how to use Bitcoin, right? It tells you. You can configure it. Oh, you know what? I want to show something here, because anybody who's watching this, I don't know if the audience has dwindled by now. I imagine it has. But for anyone watching, this is a real value proposition that we offer over any other product on the market, which is that we have a very advanced configuration system. So normally when you install Bitcoin Core and you want to change anything about how it's configured, you have to SSH into the server, open up your bitcoin.conf file, and sort of manually edit this text file, which is a problem for a lot of reasons, right? It's big and intimidating. It does require some command line. And if you get anything wrong, it's just going to break. And there's not going to be any warnings. There's not going to be any way out of it. You're not going to know what you did wrong. You literally just misspelled some word and your whole thing is broken and you have no idea why, okay? So what we did was we developed this extremely cool configuration system where I can come in here and click config, and I am now configuring Bitcoin Core, right? Which is basically the same as if I went onto the command line and we're editing this .conf file, except I'm doing it through a GUI, right? Buttons that consist of, like, check this one out. So RPC settings, great. Here's my RPC settings. Should I enable RP or disable RP, right? So I can, description, allow remote RPC requests, enable, true or false. It even tells me what the default was and I can revert to it. Okay, so I can disable and boom, RPC is no longer going to be enabled on my Bitcoin Core node. Okay, so turn it back on, done. Now, my username, password, I can change them. I can go to advanced and do some really cool stuff, right? So authorization, I can add authorization keys, serialization version, RPC server timeouts, threads, work queues, 16 requests. So I come in here and it tells me, I want to change the work queue parameter on my Bitcoin Core node. So set the depth of the work queue to service RPC calls. Determines how long the backload of RPC requests can get before it just rejects new ones. I can set this number and it tells me value must be a whole number. Value must be greater than or equal to 8 and less than or equal to 32. The default is 16. The units are requests. So here I go. Let's try to violate this and screw up my Bitcoin node. So I come in here, tells me it needs to be between 8 and 32. So I'm going to set it to 4 and I'm going to try to hit done. Value must be greater than or equal to 8. Okay, great. I'm going to set it to 40 and hit done. Value must be less than or equal to 32. How about 30.5? Value must be a whole number. It will not let me screw this up, okay? I'm going to put a number in here that Bitcoin is going to be happy with.
That's good.
Okay? We make it so you can't screw it up, right? I shouldn't say can't, but we make it really hard to screw up.
Right. I'm sure someone will find some way to screw it up.
We know they will, but we're fighting hard.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great.
If I come into wallet, right? Do I want to enable my wallet or disable it? Do I want to what's my change tolerance, right? I can set this to, it must be greater than 0 and less than 0.01, right? So anyway, so I come in here, do all these settings, and I didn't end up changing anything, so the save button's not even enabled, right? But if I had come in here and switched that to that, then boom, I could save it if I want. But I don't want to do that because I'd want it on. So there, I'm out of Bitcoin. I can view the logs. This is live logs from my Bitcoin Core node. It's telling me exactly what block it's on, how far it's synced, right? It's telling me it's only 19% synced. That's because this is my dev box and I just plugged it in today. And yeah, instructions, right? Using a wallet. Enter your quick connect code to properties or your RPC credentials. Talks about pruning. Here's a link to instructions on exactly what wallets we support. So compatible wallets. Fully Noded is available for iOS and Mac OS. Spectre is available for Mac OS, Linux, right? And here we go, instructions, follow this tutorial. So I click that, and here's a nice little tutorial for Mac on how to set up Spectre with Mac. And it's not very long, okay? I know, hey, there's a command line, that's terrifying. It's not that bad, it's about, but again, this isn't even us, right? This is Spectre. It's like, at this point, you're sort of outside of our product offering and you're now using products that connect to our product. So we have no control over what they do. All we can do is provide education and tutorials to help people along the way.
Right. And that's coming up. That's going to be a big part of what y'all are focusing on, right?
Yes.
From what you were saying earlier.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about that. I mean, our product right now is good, right? You see this thing, it's good. It's nothing compared to what it's going to be. What's coming down the pipeline in the next 6 months is very exciting. And the only problem we have is not moving fast enough. We are just as impatient as everybody else out there, but it is coming.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to show us? I know we have a couple questions in the chat, but I don't want to cut your demo off here if you've got some more.
No, that's basically it. I mean, I could show file browser or something, but honestly, buy an Embassy and try it. It's a self-hosted Google Drive. You'll love it. Yeah,
and it's pretty simple too. It's not.
I'm going to uninstall all of these though, because I did leak every single Tor address.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. All right, so let's see here. Question: so is the encrypted chat only compatible between 2 Embassy devices, or can I? And I think they're referring to cups. I don't know. Burn after reading is more just like, I guess that's tech. You can chat there, but it's kind of one way.
Correct. So burn after reading is like you just share the link with anyone on Earth,
right,
and they can view your message. So, but that's not chat, right? So they're talking about cups. Cups currently is a 1 account, 1 user, which means anyone you want to talk to on Cups will also need to be running a Cups server. That does not mean that they need an Embassy. Cups is an open source, self-hosted service. And so anyone can run Cups on their MacBook or their Windows machine or their cloud instance, whatever you want. You can run Cups wherever you want. There's a GitHub and there's a README with instructions on how to do it. The easiest way to run Cups is to buy an Embassy and click install. That's the easiest way to run it, but anyone can run it. But the bottom line is that whoever you're talking to must be running their own node, their own Cups server. We have ideas for making Cups a guest account enabled, right? So that I could give my Cups URL to people and they could actually log in with their own credentials. That is how Bitwarden works. That's how Bitwarden works on the Embassy. If you had my Bitwarden Tor URL, you could actually create an account and I couldn't stop you. If you got my Tor v3 URL, you could go to my Embassy, create an account and start storing your passwords on a physical device in my home. There's nothing I could do to stop you. However, you'd be stupid to do that because I just hit delete anytime I wanted and they'd be gone. I'd have to go to the command line to do that. But same thing with file browser. File browser, I can give out my Tor URL to friends and family and they can use it to do shared folders and directories and files, just like you can share things on Google Drive. But Cups does not work like that. Cups is 1 user, 1 server.
Gotcha. Okay, and then the other one here, let's see here. Actually, I think I know a little bit about this, but it said, I would like to hear what Matt thinks about Wire.im, which I think is just a business encrypted messaging service. I know they have centralized servers. I mean, they do claim to be end-to-end encrypted, but they've got centralized, servers that they control. So it's probably not the most sovereign way to communicate. But yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything there, Matt.
I'm not familiar with that particular service, but assuming that it is cloud-based, which I'm sure it is, then it's basically Signal with maybe a different flavor, right? Maybe it's designed for business instead of personal usage. But the bottom line is that if it's bouncing off somebody else's computer, you can be cut off, you can be backdoored, you can be, footprinted in terms of who you're talking to, even if the end-to-end encryption is true, which you actually also can't know for sure.
Gotcha. And actually, I'm sorry, now I'm seeing it can be deployed in the cloud, on a private cloud, or on premises. So maybe there's a little bit,
Sure.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know enough about that to give you a serious answer, and it doesn't sound like Matt does either, but it's a little off topic.
Here's what I can say, though. Here's what I can say. Anything that can be self-hosted, as in anything that's open source, because if it's open source, it can be self-hosted, right? You can get the service running, even if nobody has gone through the exercise of putting it in Docker containers and all the rest. It can be done. Anything that is open source can be self-hosted, and anything that is self-hosted can be run on the Embassy. So, doesn't mean it's on there now, Doesn't mean it's going to be on there anytime soon, but in theory, all of self-hosted open source software can be accommodated by the operating system that we are building. Right now, we are constrained primarily by disk, by actual storage space and speedy, good, reliable storage space. But the feature for external hard drives is coming in the next major release of Embassy OS. So you will be able to go get a 2 terabyte, solid state drive and plug it into the USB 3 port on your Embassy. And instead of installing Bitcoin to, the micro SD card that comes standard with the Embassy, when you go to install Bitcoin, it'd say, where do you want to install it? Do you want to install it to this drive or this drive or this drive? You could have 3 different drives plugged in and select where you want Bitcoin to go, right? But then you change your mind 2 weeks later and you go, I don't want Bitcoin on that drive anymore. I want it on this drive. Well, you go into Bitcoin, you select from the drop down, you say, move it to this drive and hit migrate, and it'll move all the data from one drive to the other drive, and now it's on that drive. That's what we're building. That's a major feature that we're working on, and that'll make everything possible, right? You'll be able to store anything you want.
Gotcha. Well, that's really exciting. I'm very excited to see what comes next from you guys. And I think, Chill, unless you have any other questions, you're good. Matt, is there anything you want to make sure the audience hears? This will be available on replay, and so people might be watching it a little bit later on than just right now. But anything you want to leave us with, or anything that you want to kind of talked a lot about what's coming up. So yeah, just any parting thoughts, I guess.
No, probably not.
All right. Fair enough.
We're working hard. We need help. If you, I posted a link, and maybe we could post a link attached to this video too of our Join Us Jobs Careers page. And
send me that, and we can put it in the description. We'll pop it in the chat here on the replay, and
or just in the comments and pin it, and that way people can find it easily.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Devs for sure, right? We're hiring, 2 to 3 devs immediately to augment a team that is already full of devs. We're also hiring a marketing lead to really take on this, educational approach to our marketing. We're not going to be doing Google ads. We want very organic, close-knit relationships with our customers and community. We have an operations lead role posted. This is everything from shipping, logistics, inventory management, supply chain and sales, and you name it, really just running operations. And then also a community lead. We're looking for somebody who can really step up and be the first touch point of the Telegram chat, the Matrix chat, the support email, and who knows how to triage things and build departments that can build knowledge capital that is highly accessible to streamline support. Because what we're doing is, we might make it simple, but it is complicated. So people are going to have questions.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Makes sense. All right. Well, yeah, we'll get that from you. We'll post it. And also, if you're watching a replay of this, and you do have a question that wasn't answered, pop it in the comments down below, and we have Matt's info. We can ask him a question and hopefully get you an answer if you have something else you're curious about with the Embassy and you didn't catch the live stream. So
join our Telegram channel. That's where we, like I said, we're there. The whole team's there. We're very responsive. We're very interactive with the community.
There you go. All right. Well, yeah, we'll get you all the links. Cool. Well, yeah, Chill. I think that's gonna wrap it up as on the ending note. What was it? You told me I needed to say something before we ended. What was it? I forgot.
It's okay. It's been a long day, so.
Buy Bitcoin.
Yes, buy some Bitcoin.
Buy Bitcoin. It's down.
Buy Bitcoin and buy an Embassy. There we go. That'll be our parting thoughts. Cool. Well, yeah, I think that's going to do it, everybody. And thanks for tuning in. That's a pretty good stream here. And we'll be back next week talking with Justin, Ehrenhofer. Is that his name? Did I say that right? About Comply First as a web privacy advocate. And so, yeah, bring your questions, and that'll be pretty fun. But yeah, Matt, thank you so much for your time. Really excited to see what y'all are doing, and we'll be staying tuned and watching what comes next from the embassy and Start9.
Cool. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, awesome.
Have a good night.
Anytime. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.